Believing the fact that you have understood the concept of catch up rule and consequential seniority, I will proceed with the topic. And therefore, we reach to the judgment of M. Nagaraj versus Union of India. Now, in this case, the validity of the amendments is challenged. So, these are all constitutional amendments starting from 1995, just after the Indira Sani judgment. And then you have the 81st Amendment Act, 82nd, 85th Amendment Act. So, all these amendments, constitutional amendments, are challenged. So, after Keswananda Bharati, we have a doctrine which is known as the doctrine of basic feature, which is one of the limitations upon the power of the parliament to change or alter or amend the constitution. If those constitutional amendments are challenged in the courts, then the court is exercising the judicial review power against those constitutional amendments which the parliament has made. Where is the genesis of the doctrine of basic structure? So, the judgment of M. Nagaraj says that the doctrine of basic structure emanated from the German constitution. And I would stress upon the fact that the German constitution is based on the fact that every human being has a dignity by virtue of his existence. So, this doctrine of basic structure is to protect the human dignity. Going ahead with the concept of basic structure, you will find two different terms. One is the identity of the constitution, and second will be the limitations of the constitution. So, we will come to know as to what are those, but before that, please refer to this particular statement. Axioms like secularism, democracy, reasonableness, social justice are overarching principles. When you say it is an overarching principle, it means it will pervade any law which is enacted by the parliament, because it is such a principle having a hierarchy mentioned in the constitutional values. These principles are beyond the amending power of the parliament. So, these axioms are beyond the amending power of the parliament. They pervade all enacted laws. They stand at the pinnacle of the hierarchy of constitutional values. So, if you see 14, 19, and 21, the court is saying that they are beyond the powers of the parliament to amend these provisions, because they are having a overarching effect over the laws which are enacted by the parliament. Further, on the concept of theory of basic structure, it says that the concept is based on constitutional identity. Now, what is constitutional identity? So let me take an example. So you all have a specific kind of handwriting, and looking at that handwriting, one can find out as to who is that person. Now, in your handwriting, there will be many letters which will be written in such a way that it is peculiar to only your handwriting. So, those are identities of your handwriting. That will be the markers from which it will be found that why is this your handwriting. So, the constitution also has some identities. We'll come to those identities as to what are those. But remember, it says the word amendment postulates that the old constitution survives without the loss of its identity. If you change the identity, then it is not amendment. Then you are bringing up a new constitution. So, without the loss of identity, despite the change, it continues even though. Therefore, it says that the principle of constitutional identity is also the principle of constitutional continuity. That the older constitution is continuing even after the amendment to the constitution. It says To destroy its identity is to abrogate the basic structure of the constitution. It says the main object behind the theory of constitutional identity is continuity, and within that continuity of identity, changes are admissible depending upon the situation and circumstances of the day. So, the main question of constitutional identity is constitutional continuity. This is one important statement where the court says that free and fair election may not constitute a basic feature, but representative democracy is an essential feature. Next important statement, that the theory of basic structure is based on the principle that a change is amendment, in a thing does not involve its destruction, and the destruction of a thing is a matter of substance and not of form. So if there is destruction, then it is a matter of substance. So the judgment here has three main issues to be decided. Now look at those three issues in paragraph 77. And I have already told you what are roster point properties, what is the consequential seniority, and what is continuous officiation. Also the catch up rule. So paragraph 78 is the judgment of Ajit Singh 2, where it says that 16.4 or 16.4a does not confer any fundamental right of reservation. Though it says that it was observed that 16.1 provides to every employee eligible for a promotion fundamental right to be considered for promotion. So there is a fundamental right, and that is only for being considered for promotion, but not to get promotion. So this court says that 16.4 and 16.4a are only enabling provisions. So here the matter is settled here because when Jagdish Lal held that 16.4 is a fundamental right, the court in Ajit Singh 2 on that observation stated that the Jagdish Lal case did not refer to one of the important judgment, that is CA Rajendran case, and that was not shown to the bench. Also on the point of the statement of Justice Subbarao that nothing in this article, the word nothing in the article, provides a power to the state untrammeled by rest of the article. On that particular quotation, Ajit Singh too says that even though it is accepted now on the basis of the dissenting judgment of Justice Subbarao that 16.4 or 15.4 is not an exception to 16.1 or 15.1 or either Article 14, they are the facets. But still, in the judgment of Justice Subbarao, he only stated that 16.4 is an enabling provision which is permissive and discretionary in nature. So that finally settles the law that even Justice Subbarao did not concur with the claim of the advocate that 16.4 is a fundamental right. So the law now is, which is explained here in M. Nagaraj, that 16.4 or 16.4a are only enabling provisions. Enabling provisions for to balance the interests of the society with the interests of the reserved classes. So the question now here is whether the catch-up rule or consequential seniority, if that is added to the constitution or if it is removed from the constitution. So if you see, the 85th Amendment Act added the concept of consequential seniority. So somehow it removed the concept of catch-up rule which was laid down in Virpal Singh Chauhan and expressly mentioned in Ajit Singh 2 case. Now, if addition of these two or the subtraction of these two obliterates the constitution, then we will say that it is against the basic feature of the constitution. That is why it is said that we are of the view that the concept of catch up rule or consequential seniority are judicially evolved concepts. So they cannot be equated to the status of secularism or constitutional sovereignty. They also say that in Veer Pal Singh Chauhan, it was held already that catch up rule is not implicit in 16.1 or 16.4. Therefore, such practices cannot be elevated to the status of constitutional principle so as to be beyond the amending power of the parliament. So, if they are not axioms like secularism or democratic values, then such a principle can either be added or either be subtracted or removed from the constitution. Further, if you want to check whether the constitutional amendment violates the basic structure, there are two tests which are involved. The tests are with test and the identity test. So here I will mention the word constitutional identity. So what are the constitutional identities? If you see Article 19, it expressly states about freedoms. Article 14, 15, 16, 17 are expressly referring about equality. They are freedom code and equality code. They are the identities of the constitution, which says that we will have equality and we will have freedoms in the territory. What is the with test? So the concept means the concept of limited government. That again means that there are certain restrictions imposed by the constitution which have to be followed when the parliament is enacting those laws. So, width test is there is a certain width around which the parliament has to function, and that width is created by the limitations which are surrounding those powers, and these limitations are provided in the constitution. Now, if certain relaxations or concessions is added to the constitution in the favor of reservation for SCs and STs, can we say that the identity of the constitution has changed? Do we not have equality any longer? The answer is no. Because amendment means a change and not destruction. So, if there is a change, it only means that the constitution is continuing its identity. The amendment has not destructed the identity of the question. Okay. So, what is the width test in the context of reservations? When you look at 16.4 or 16.4a, what are the limitations which are provided? One is in the opinion of the state. Second, backwardness. Third, adequacy of representation. Number four, that is the efficiency of the administration, which comes from Article 335. Now, can we say that those limits have been breached? Then the answer is no. So, the constitutional amendment in favor of adding consequential seniority or in favor of adding certain relaxations or in favor of continuing the carry forward rule and taking the seats as different from the seats which are freshly notified in a particular year does not change, does not obliterate the constitutional limitations, and it does not obliterate the constitutional identity. Please find here. Applying the wit test, we do not find obliteration of any of the constitutional limitations. Applying the test of identity, we do not find any alteration in the existing structure of the equality code. So, before moving further, some of the important statements I have highlighted, you can go through them. Please see 104. The constitutional limitation under 335 is relaxed and not obliterated. So, a change does not mean destruction. So, another important statement. Article 14 confers a personal right by enacting a prohibition which is absolute. Inserting the enabling concept under the Constitution does not violate the Equality Code. It says here, according to the Constitutional Law of India by H.M. Sirvai, equality is not violated by mere conferment of discretionary power. It is violated by arbitrary exercise by those on whom it is conferred. This is the theory of guided power. So remember, if there is an enabling provision provided in the constitution, it means that there is a discretionary power provided with the state. There will be a breach of the discretion if that discretion is exercised in the arbitrary manner. Remember A.V. Dicey, he said, if there is any discretion, then there will be a arbitrary exercise. But we rejected it that there can be a reasonable exercise of discretion also. It says enabling provisions are permissive in nature. Further, one of the important statement which gets stuck into the mouth of every lawyer is equality before law guaranteed by the first part of Article 14 is a negative concept, while the second part is a positive concept, which is enough to validate equalizing measures depending upon the fact situation. So, equality before law is a negative concept. It is a duty upon the state not to discriminate among people. And the second, it allows classification. So, that is why it is a positive concept. Now, paragraph 86 is important because that will be relevant for the judgment of the Jarnail Singh case. Now, what are the basis of exercise of the discretion which is provided to the state? Number one, that the state has to form its opinion on quantifiable data. So the state has to find out data and then on the basis of that data exercise whether to provide reservation or not to provide reservation. It says it gives freedom to the state to provide for reservations in matters of promotion. The said clause is carved out of 16.4. Therefore, clause 4a will be governed by two compelling reasons, but actually there are three: backwardness, inadequacy of representation mentioned in Article 16.4. It says if the two reasons does not exist, then the enabling provision cannot come into force. Further, apart from backwardness and inadequacy of representation, so these two grounds, there is an additional ground that the state has also to keep in mind: overall efficiency under Article 335. So it is talking about quantifiable data. Now, this quantifiable data becomes a bone of contention in the Jarnail Singh case. When the court talks about if the state concerned fails to identify and measure backwardness. So the question is measuring of backwardness, inadequacy, and overall administrative efficiency. Whether backwardness can be measured is now a question. Also, this statement: if the state has quantifiable data to show backwardness, how will you show backwardness by a quantifiable data? And inadequacy, then the state can make reservations in promotions, keeping in mind maintenance of efficiency. So, at two point of time, the court is saying that you have to find backwardness on the basis of quantifiable data. But in Indra Sani's case, we have repeatedly learned that backwardness, in order to find backwardness, there is an objective standard. In order to find adequacy of representation, that is a subjective find. So whether there is backwardness or not, there is a objective assessment that cannot be equated to assessment on the basis of data. So in the M. Nagaraj case, you have to remember that the challenge was whether 16.4 or 4a can be said to be fundamental rights or they are only enabling provisions. So the court held that they are enabling provisions and not fundamental rights. Further, they discussed about what is the concept of enabling provisions, how it is a discretion, and how that discretion has to be exercised on the basis of quantifiable data. The court also discussed the validity of the constitutional amendment, and that constitutional amendment was challenged on the ground of breach of the doctrine of basic structure. The court held that there is only change and not destruction. There is relaxation and there is no destruction of either the constitutional limitations or either of the identities of the constitution. So this will take us to the next case, which is Jarnail Singh case. So in Jarnail Singh, the main issue involves around whether there can be a collection of quantifiable data showing backwardness, which was stated in the M. Nagaraj case. And it was argued that it would be contrary to the judgment of Indra Sani. So the main statement is in paragraph 14. It is clear, therefore, that M. Nagaraj has, in unmistakable terms, stated that the state has to collect quantifiable data showing backwardness of the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. We are afraid that this portion of the judgment is directly contrary to the nine-judge bench in Indra Sani. Says the test or requirement of social and educational backwardness cannot be applied to scheduled castes and scheduled tribes who undoubtedly fall within the expression of backward class of citizens. And lastly, the conclusion in M. Nagaraj that the state has to collect quantifiable data showing backwardness of SCs and STs being contrary to the nine-judge bench in Indra Sani is held to be invalid to that extent. Remember that backwardness is always an objective assessment. So, after the judgment of M. Nagaraj and Jarnail Singh, we can come to the conclusion that the power of the state to provide reservation in promotion is an enabling concept and it is also a discretion which is provided to the state. Now, there can be arbitrary exercise of that discretion also if certain limitations are broken. If certain constitutional limitations are broken and there is an excessive exercise of that discretion. But we have not talked about whether inaction will also result in an arbitrary exercise. Because in law we say that there are overt acts and there are also covert acts. There are acts which are positive acts and there are omissions which are negative acts. So, can there be a question that discretion, if provided to the state, if is not exercised, together with the presence that there are jurisdictional facts which ask the government or the state to provide for reservation in promotions, because on the basis of that data, you could form an opinion that a particular class of the society is not adequately represented, and you have the quantifiable data on which you can make an opinion that providing of reservations in promotions will not affect the efficiency of the administration. And even after the presence of all these two quantifiable data through which you can make the opinion, that discretion is not exercised. Can the courts then direct the state to exercise that discretion? That will become the next question. Can there be a direction by the courts to the state to exercise that discretion, which is already present in the constitution? Therefore, the question leads us to the most recent judgment on reservation in promotions. It is Mukesh Kumar and state of Uttarakhand. So this is the judgment of February 2020. So the matter was that the High Court had asked the state to find quantifiable data and then to provide reservation. A mandamus was issued. So the Supreme Court in this case states that the central point here is whether the decision by the state government not to provide reservations can be only on the basis of quantifiable data. So if the question is, if the state does not want to provide for reservation, does it need to find the quantifiable data? Or it is only when the state is willing to have provisions for reservation, the state has to find quantifiable data. The court here stresses upon the fact that 16.4 or 16.4a are not fundamental rights. They refer to Ajit Singh too. Further, it says that if they wish to exercise their discretion, if the states are willing to make provisions for reservation in promotion, then the state has to collect quantifiable data. And not when, in the opinion of the state is not willing to provide for reservation. They justify this statement because they say that if they ever bring up a policy of reservation in promotion, then they will have to show the court that data. And it is only for showing the court that data, that quantifiable data, that it is a prerequisite that before the announcement of reservation in promotions, you have to collect the quantifiable data. And it is not prerequisite when the state government decides not to provide reservations. It says, not being bound to provide reservations, the state is not required to justify its decision on the basis of quantifiable data, showing that there is adequate representation of the members of scheduled caste and scheduled tribe in the state services. So they are not required to show any quantifiable data showing that there is adequacy of representation if they are not willing to provide for reservation in promotions. So that was the final judgment in this case.